Hello and welcome everyone to a mods and meta video that I'm recording at the time of the 17th of September 2022. So with the first bunch of guns, I have all of them in my inventory. I have all of them modded, and I'll first go over each of the mods in every class, and then I'll mention to you what the current meta is for these weapons. So I'll start off with Pointman. As you can see, the Desmodus has no mods, so there's nothing to talk about. The X70 Blue, the Groon, I have the skin, the X70, neither. The MP7 does have mods, so we'll look at them. You can use a laser sight. This increases the mobile accuracy when firing a laser, but decreases mobility due to weight. Mobility is not that much of a deal. I mean, obviously, as a pointman, you're already quite fast. I personally use this, but it's not a very important mod to use. Then we go on to the barrels. There's 3 barrels you can choose from. You have the advanced silencer, which means that you have a silencer equipped. You have the burst barrel, more ROF, and you have the sharpshooter barrel for more accuracy. Basically what you want for a pointman weapon, especially the MP7, you want it to be spray and pray. I always use the burst barrel. If you go out trolling, you could use the advanced silencer. The sharpshooter barrel, I honestly say no reason to use it. I use the burst barrel. And the same goes for the trigger. You can go for precision or lightweight, but really why would you if you have a mechanism improvement which gives you extra ROF. You can see the stat change on top. So this is for accuracy. Yeah, this is for the ROF. This one is currently bugged. It gives you a 0.2 extra ROF if you have both of these mods equipped. So this is something that the devs still do need to fix. And then finally the grip. You can choose for a silicon grip, and you can choose for an ergonomic grip. The silicon grip shows the auto fire, but the ergonomic grip is what I'm using since it does have some hidden stats. It just makes the gun a little bit stable. And it says better handling increases accuracy. And accuracy, since you're already going down on that a little bit with the other mods, is something that you'd like to keep instead of the silicon grip, which we can see here. Increases initial shot accuracy and range accuracy during auto fire. You could use this, but I personally use the ergonomic grip. Move on to the Thanatos V, or the Super V. Chris also use a laser sight, same as before. Range mod trigger, the only thing, but extra range, of course you want it. Custom trigger decreases ROF, big no-no. You can choose between a soft grip and the carbon grip. The soft grip does turn down a couple of things. If we go to the stats again, it increases spread recovery speed, but slightly decreases accuracy. You don't want less accuracy. This one, gives you more zoomed accuracy. Doesn't really matter much. But it also talks about recoil suppression, which is not bad either. And as stock, you can use, but yeah, it talks about being when zoomed. It's not really needed. You can equip it, but it's not a big deal. Then you have the Raven, the Uzi Raven. Only 1 barrel, burst barrel, more ROF. So yes, you want this trigger, extra 7 extra bullets, trading off against a little less mobility. Highly recommend it. And for the grip, again the silicon grip instead of the soft grip, since it decreases accuracy and this increases accuracy, and you do want a bit of accuracy. We have 2 guns remaining. We have the SD5, the MP5 SD5, no mods. And you have the FNTPS, which has no mods either. So that covers everything for pointman. The meta for the time being, obviously the MP7 is by far the best gun in the game. If you're looking for a shotgun between the XTPS and the X70, I would recommend you use the X70. And if you refuse to use the MP7 like myself because it's a bit broken, I would go with the Desmodus. Although the Raven can also be quite good if you have decent accuracy. The Super V and the SD5, not that strong, but equipping a silencer, you can with the others as well, but you can use them a little bit for trolls. Moving on to rifles. First on the EL85. I'm using a range mod. You can use range or you can use extra damage, but the thing is the reinforced barrel gives you less ROF, and this gun already doesn't have a lot of ROF, so I highly recommend you to use this one. So extra auto fire, this just gives you extra range. highly recommend you to use that. I personally go for a dot ×2 because the default scope that's on there is too big and I don't like it. So I want a smaller scope on it, but this is personal preference. Then you have a trigger. Increases aim recovery speed during autofire, but decreases accuracy. The accuracy is already quite low in the gun, which is why I'm not using it. And if you're looking for aim recovery or accuracy, I would personally go for accuracy, so that's why I'm not using it. And finally, the recoil control stock. There's less recoil, so yes, you want this. Next, the cannon. In my case, the FAL cannon. There's 1001 mods for this gun. I think that's important to list beforehand. But there are a few things that you need to take care of. As you can see, I have it fully modded. What is important to know is what things to go for, what things not to go for. You have a heavy barrel. I would not recommend this. I would choose just between the long range or the reinforced. But again, reinforced, less auto fire. I would recommend going for the long range barrel. ROF stays the same, and especially on further ranges, I think about 15 or 20 meters in, maybe even more, it will do more damage than reinforced. But with the higher auto fire, it does mean that you have more DPS. So I would go with long range barrel. Trigger is highly optional. The only reason I'm using this is because it makes your crosshair smaller, and that would make it better for one taps. Personal preference, this is not mandatory. Ergonomic grip is mandatory, so you always want to use long range and ergonomic grip. And I choose for the recoil control stock to kind of decrease the recoil, and in combination with all of these means that I can spray it a little bit more if you go for a more standard setup. But there's also people using the shock absorber, so that is also something that you can use. You can play around with the trigger and the stocks or not use one, but the most important base here is that you have ergonomic grip and long range barrel. Then the M4, there are several setups that you can go for. You can go for, as you can see, a accuracy one or a spray one. I go for the spray variant, and I think that's recommended. So go with a burst barrel, more ROF. I went with a mechanism improvement, more ROF. And of course the ergonomic grip, which you should always use. The weight grip doesn't really matter. And the AK, I've chosen to go without mods because people recommend that to me. Because if you use the attack one, you get more damage, but you get less auto fire. And if you use burst, you get a little less accuracy. Given by the stats, this one is probably the best to use. You don't really gain a lot. It is still quite easy to use. I will equip this burst barrel just in case. But a lot of people told me do not use any barrel whatsoever, so this is something I will recommend too. Then the X16, the problem with this is that it's currently a little bit bugged. Well, again, burst barrel is something you want to use, but the triggers are bugged because the burst mode would indicate that it's burst, but it's not. It turns it into fully automatic, and the range mod, suit for long range, increases long range damage. That's cool. Actually gives you a ton of range and a lot of everything extra. But the thing is, it won't be fully automatic. And personally, I would like it to be fully automatic. If you like it to be burst, you can use this. Otherwise, go for the burst mode trigger. And I use the shock absorber because the light stock, well, it says more fire rate, but that's not even correct. Increases stability. This increases your accuracy, so I would recommend this. 3 guns remaining actually. The G36 Mastery, no mods. The Sako, for which I use the range. You can also go for extra ROF if you want that, but I personally prefer a little bit more range, so it's more effective on range. Weight grip increases stabilization, so it's easier to control. That's why I use it. And then shock absorber or recoil control stock. I choose for the extra accuracy instead of less recoil. But again, you can choose between these. It does not really matter much. And then finally this one, the X4A1, the Venom, the M320A1, the Molotov launcher, no mods. For the meta, clearly the AK and the FN-FAL are the best. Most people say that the MA47 is best. I really don't like using the AK, so I mostly use the FAL, and then sometimes I change between other guns. Sako is also quite strong, but I think it's quite clear that the X16A4 and the X4A1 do fall a little bit under with the other guns. Then finally, snipers. We'll start with the FR. The FR, well, extra accuracy for a sniper over range, never a good idea. You wanted to make sure that it one hits, so long range barrel always. I use the sharpshooter scope. The precision scope is a little bit slower than the sharpshooter scope, which is why I use that one. And finally, magazine replacement. The extra recoil control doesn't really matter. You will barely notice it, and 5 extra bullets is always nice, so easy mods. Then the ballista. I go with a A.V.A barrel. Again, recoil control doesn't matter. Extra damage, always welcome. I kept the basic scope here because I like it a little bit more. You can also go for the sharpshooter scope. These might zoom in a little bit more, but they're all slower than the basic and the sharpshooter scope. So either use the basic or the sharpshooter one. Precision trigger gives you more accuracy, decreases recoil while moving. It's an improvement, there's no drawbacks, always use this. Weight grip, same thing. More weight for sniper is irrelevant. Extra stability, always welcome. And then the heavy stock. Stabilizing the weapon decreases mobility. Mobility is not important on a sniper. Always use this. I always have these two equipped, but I'll talk about that later. Then the Zebra. I'm using a range mod trigger. I want extra range, extra damage because the gun doesn't one-shot. I use the basic scope because I hate quick scopes, but this is a little bit of personal preference. I would recommend the basic scope, however. Then you have a custom trigger or rapid fire mechanism. With this gun, you just want to shoot as quickly as possible, so rapid fire mechanism, no doubt. Weight grip, same as before, more stability, less mobility. Mobility doesn't matter. Then the light stock. It says increases fire rate, but it doesn't. Decreases movement speed, increases recoil control. Okay, fast reaction. You could, but as you can see, less range, so not recommended. That's why I go with a heavy stock. Then the silver arrow. Also here, you can go for damage or long range. I chose for a long range because the gun already has a lot of damage and a little bit less range. I want it to be closest to 100. I go with a basic scope. Some people also use the quick scope, but the quick scope is actually not quicker than these for first zoom. So if you actually want to be very fast, these are still better. And I chose here for the swap grip because it gives you extra swap auto fire. You can also use this, increases crosshair speed, but I'd rather go with the extra ROF in this case. X24, again, more mods. Sharpshooter or the A.V.A barrel. This one does give you a tiny little bit of extra range. These two don't really matter much. I've gone with the A.V.A barrel since there's a little bit more damage, but I think in the end the differences are negligible. Then scopes, same story as the last gun. Use a basic scope. Then here I did go for the sniper trigger instead of the veteran trigger, even though this one gives me more auto fire and this one gives me less. I went for a little bit more accuracy on this part, but you can also use the veteran trigger. And here I go for the ergonomic grip, more accuracy. Always recommend it over the weight grip. I have 2 guns remaining, for which one doesn't have mods. And then finally the A.V.A, the old TPG. Always use a barrel, more damage. Same story with the scopes. Use basic or sharpshooter. These are slower. Precision trigger, more accuracy. Ergonomic grip, better accuracy. And this one, more stability. Now the guns, what is the meta here? These 3 guns take a lot because they're very fast. You need to shoot at the pelvis, so like the belly area, if you want to make one shots, otherwise you won't. Zebra, well, I hate semis, but that's up to you. I always have these 2 equipped because I think the FR is the best gun in the game currently for snipers. And I have the ballista with me because it can wallbang, and this is very usable in situations. But you can also use the tank gun, the A.V.A for that, for which I have the skin. So I would personally use one of those 3 weapons, but I think the FR is a little bit better. Quickly pistols then, since we're busy anyways. I'd recommend, especially for snipers, to use the B92, the Beretta. Has more bullets, and it seems to be a little bit more stable in comparison to the other guns with damage. So that's why I use this one. I have another Beretta here, and I have a shotgun here because that's fun, the Winchester. But that's all up to you. So that's it for the video. Quite a lengthy one, but this should explain all the mods that I have and the reasoning behind it. Hope you enjoyed it, and I hope this is useful for you. And I hope I'll see you soon in game. See ya.